good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, The Contractor's Key to More Referral Quality Leads This Winter. I'm really excited to be your host today. My name is Jenny. Steve's also here, and he'll be helping us out by answering any of your questions throughout the webinar. So I'll be going through a little intro here, and then Bob Sheehan will take you through his presentation. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll answer any of your questions that you might have for Bob. So in case you're not familiar with Surefire and who we are, we're located in Northern Virginia, and we help small businesses drive visibility through all channels on the web so that they can continue to grow their business with ease. Our mission here is to educate businesses on a variety of topics to help you succeed and to help the industry grow. We want to know who you are too, so let us know where you're joining us from today, and you can do that using the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. So a few quick reminders before I pass it on over to Bob. You'll get the recording of this chat next week. And like I mentioned earlier, you can ask us any questions, make comments, etc. in the chat box on the right hand. Because you're on the webinar with us right now, you have a chance to win the Google Home Hub that we'll be giving away at the end of the talk. So stay tuned till the end when we'll be announcing a winner. So without further ado, today we have Bob Sheehan, a digital marketing expert that has worked in the home improvement space for about 25 years, joining us. He's got a really great presentation, so with that, I will pass it over to Bob.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Jenny, for the introduction. Really appreciate it. Happy to be here today, joining everybody for a little talk about, what to do in the off season. We've got, we've got December, January, February, and depending on where you live, it could be as deep as March too, where it gets harder and harder to do this thing, and so just some ideas and some thoughts about ways to get through the winter in the best way you can and get back to the season when things are a lot easier. So my goal today is by the end of this webinar, you'll have some ideas about things you can do in the off season that'll waste less dollars and really focus on things that you can do in the off season that'll actually get sales and make it a lot easier. So with that, right, there's an internet component to everything we do, and so we'll talk a little bit about how the internet fits into this first, and then I've got some ideas that I wanted to put on the table for things that really are not the internet, but really can help. So if you've seen any of my webinars, we talk about this all the time. The average person going online about 100 times a day. And the idea that when inquiries come in from the internet, you got about 2 minutes to answer those before the chances of that turning into a sale drop significantly. That's the kind of the world we live in. It's very much an internet world today. Websites are the primary way that many people get, or really most businesses get leads now. And even that's changing. So as we go forward, looking into, even by 2020, the expectation is that 50% of all search will be voice, right? Google right now has 5.4 billion searches every day. So you can imagine, you're looking at half of that being on voice, where you just be literally talking into a machine. 50% of search phrases have 4 or more words. So we call that long tail. It's the idea that people are really talking into a machine, or right now they might be typing phrases and sentences into a machine, and that's all going to change into words. But it's it's really about language, and it's about kind of understanding and answering questions and being there for people when they need to kind of almost have a conversation with the machine. And the other really important component of this is 22% of customers will tell you that if you have 1 negative review, they won't buy from you. And that's, in some ways that there are companies out there and businesses out there that encourage that kind of thing. But people want to do business with people who are referable and people who do good work and that have people saying good things about them. So there's enough options, and the consumer's in enough control now that they get to say, well, 1 review and you're off the list. So we look at this as a customer journey. We talk about people going through a process and learning how to buy from us, and it starts with this exploration phase where people go out on the internet and they just kind of look for things. They get interested in something. They kind of focus their interest on a particular company or a particular product or whatever, and then they start to make comparisons, and they start to say, okay, which one which place, which company, which product, which service, whatever it is. And then during that compare phase, right, they're kind of making evaluations and trying to decide who's good and who isn't, and then they make a purchase. That purchase piece, obviously, that's the place where we'd like to be. In most cases, we want to get them to that place as quickly as possible. But we got to make sure that we're talking to them in all the other places that they're in, so that then, at the end of that, right, after they've purchased and we've fulfilled the promise, that they talk about the experience, right? That the customers will go online and reviews and when they go out there and talk about it, that it's a positive thing. So we have to think about all of these things, and we have to be in all these places when the customers are there, or else you don't get to the part that you really like. And just some numbers about how people buy online, where almost 60% of people tell us that they buy home services based on proximity. How close are they to me, right? Are they in my neighborhood? Are they in my town? I want to buy that locally. I want to do business with people I know, and I want to have recommendations from people I know about the people I'm doing business with. And I think this is low, but we talk about 56% checking the website. I think it's more like 99. I can't imagine somebody buying a $15,000 roof without looking at your website. But the statistics tell us it's certainly more than half. And then if the website lacks info, and if the digital footprint that we call it, the kind of the things that you have out there lack detail and lack information, the customers move on, and they have plenty of options. So we have to make sure that we're talking to the right customers at the right moments in time about the right things. And that's a little bit of what I'm thinking about today, because when you do business in March and April, May, June, right, when things are normal, when customers are kind of in the market, and when there's not other things going on that prevent them from being in the market, it's a pretty normal thing. Every month is a little bit the same, where you have an expected group of things that you do, media that work, right? And then typically in January and February, those are the two biggest months where the things that you used to do stop working. But we still have to make an effort to be where the homeowner needs us, and to be available when they are there. But we have to do it in a way that fits into budgets, and we have to get return on investment, and we have to kind of do the right thing. So when we talk about managing a budget, we're talking about creating a big online presence for your business, and then kind of layering in the other things that help us at different points of the year. Right. So when we're looking at budgeting media, right, and I do a budget webinar. I've done it a bunch of times here at Surefire. We always talk about budgeting being about tracking, right? That if you know what's working, then you can tell whether you should buy it again, right? And you can know whether you can buy more of it, or whether you should get out of it completely. But if you don't know what's working, if you're not tracking it, you'll never be able to make the right decision. So it's all about initially tracking what you do, right? And then obviously there's many media choices. I know I talk to contractors all the time. I was one. I worked in a business where we were constantly trying to make decisions on which things do we do, right? Should I be in Google ads? Should I be in social media? Should I be in should I be doing the Better Business Bureau website? Should I be buying radio? And those are difficult questions to answer in the months when things are good, right? Because you want to manage your money. You want to get the best return for the money that you do spend, and you don't really kind of know how it's going to come out, right? Unless you've tracked it all along and you really have a good idea of how the past was, you can generally predict the future. Where that gets even harder is in the off season, when you're sitting here looking at December, January, and February, when you've got the holidays in front of you. You've got it's going to be cold in most parts of the country. It's going to be people aren't generally inclined to be talking to somebody about siding, for instance, or about a roof when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. And so we have to think about things differently, and we have to try to approach things in a little different way. So I look at it like two different kind of aspects, two different parts of the year and two different ways to think about things. One of them is prospecting, right? We know that when we send to mailing lists, for instance, when we email things, or when we mail to a list of people who may not even know us, if we do that in May, in most parts of the United States, we get a predicted response, and we will get people that raise their hand and say, I'd like to talk to you guys about, the thing that you do, because they're in the market. People are thinking about these things. This is the time of year when they solve those problems. But if you're out prospecting in January and February, and you're trying to get new people to look at you, or trying to get people to think about the thing that you're trying to get them to buy, and they're not thinking about that, that prospecting can be very expensive. When you look at, you go out in January with a direct mail piece to people who have never heard of you, you're gonna have a hard time making that work, right? And so I think about those months in terms of farming instead of prospecting, right? I'm not out looking for brand new people. I still have my website going, right? I've got an internet presence that is working for me, right? And I'm indexed well, and I've got a lot of presence, so that when people are looking, they will find me. But I'm not really trying to get them to new people to find me, right? But if I'm emailing old leads, for instance, if I'm sending messages to people who at one point may have already seen me, that has a different level of expectation in terms of how they're going to respond to that. Or if I'm sending direct mail to customers, right? I've got a group of customers who have already paid me once, right? They've already kind of, they know who I am. That's going to have a different level of expectation in terms of cost per lead and ROI than, if I'm going out to people who have no idea who I am. Same thing with any outbound calling that we do, right? If we're not cold calling in January and February as much as we are looking for, people who've already heard from us, or people who may have, gone through a demo and didn't finish, right? They didn't buy. Might be worthwhile to visit them. And then, the thing that I really think is important in these months is this idea of special offers to customers only. So we're able to go out and talk to people in ways that they, really at times a year, and in places when they wouldn't otherwise, talk to you. So all seasons are not equal, right? If you tracked cost per lead across the seasons and across the months, you might see a pattern like this, where, in January, you've got a cost per lead on many of these things that's simply unacceptable. You're not going to be able to do it. You've got too much, going on, or they've got too much going on, and they're not responding. And they're not in the mood to talk to somebody about an exterior replacement, let's say, when there's a couple of feet of snow on the ground. Whereas if you get into, May and August, things might be much more normal, and you've got a cost per lead there that puts you in front of customers at an acceptable cost. So we have to think about those months a little differently, the Decembers and Januaries and Februaries differently than May and August. But one of the things that I've known for a long time, and I've done it in my businesses, and I've seen it, at work, is that direct mail to customers in those months can work, right? Where you can get people to respond because they know you, they trust you, they like you, they've already bought from you, and typically they've got a need. So why does the cost per lead change by month, right? I always ask this, aren't all media the same, right? Well, and we know that they're not, and the reason is the customer's in a different state of mind in the different months that we're talking about, right? So are new people looking for you in January? Typically not, right? Or they're certainly not looking for you in the same kind of frequency that you will find, going on in May or June, or other parts. And my attitude is, why spend a lot of money to try to reach them, right? Why go out and increase your cost per acquisition so much that it just stops making sense, and focus on the things that can work. So, we've talked about some of these things, but there's a lot of reasons why we don't do business in January and February. Among them, the biggest one is the weather. In most parts of the United States, the weather becomes an obstacle in those months for people not only to think about what it is that we do, but to reach out and try to solve a problem in those months. They either don't think that it's the right time to do it, or they're not in the mood to do it, or they've got other things going on or whatever, right? They're not outside looking at what's broken on the house, right? They're not seeing the, the gutter that's hanging off the back of the house, or they're not seeing the, the roof that maybe is getting ready to be repaired or whatever. They've also got holiday bills, and they go on vacation, and they do things in the, in the middle of the winter that kind of, get them ready to be our customer maybe in May or June, right? That we need to be thinking about kind of getting to that place. So what can we do in these months? And I've got a few ideas, and so I think there's really two things that we can do. One of them is the internet, online, right? And the other one is the existing customer. Both of these things revolve around the cost of getting a lead, the cost of putting you in front of a customer. With the internet, it's always going to be the lowest cost per lead, no matter what you're doing. And if you have a well-structured internet presence, and if you have a well-structured website and program to promote that for a very inexpensive amount of money, you can be, in the game on the internet. It's not hard. It doesn't cost you all outdoors. And then the existing customer, for a lot of the reasons we just spoke about, tends to be the thing that can respond in those months. Those folks know you, right? There's a lot of reasons, why it makes sense to talk to them. But before we do that, we're going to just take a quick little break here, and then we'll come back and finish the presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. We'll let you take a little break, and I hope everyone is really excited to come back and dive a little bit more into these solutions. But first, I think that we are going to launch a poll where you can select to have a private one-on-one call with one of our digital marketing experts, where they'll be able to give you an inside look at the Surefire Local Marketing Cloud and be able to show you 3 to 4 tactics that can help you improve your online presence. So let us know if Tuesday or Thursday of next week work for you. The poll is open, so you can pick a time, and if neither of those days work, just please email me, and we will reach out to schedule a call. It's a really great opportunity for you to see how partnering with a digital marketing company can make a huge improvement in your marketing efforts. For example, Surefire Local helps you multiply your local marketing efforts by helping you see and strengthen all of your online activities from a single platform. And that's going to be things like SEO, online ads, reviews, local listings, and social media. Okay, we will pass it back to you, Bob.
Okay, great. All right, so let me, okay. So why is the internet an off-season medium, and why do we kind of keep that going during the off-season? Because we're able to kind of manage the things that matter there, all year round, right? So it's all about consistency, right? Staying consistent across the whole internet, and making sure that we do a lot of these things, right, in our programs, but making sure that your name, address, and phone number is consistent across everything, and that your recency, that you're publishing content frequently and regularly, and that your internet presence is right. And what happens is the customer uses the internet kind of whenever they need to. So we need to be thinking about the internet kind of all year round, and it will bear fruit during the off season, pretty consistently. So what we recommend is that all of that's going, year round. We don't want to turn things off. We don't want to kind of walk away and let it sit. We want to pay attention to it in the off season, so that we have that consistent effort going against it. And that's a good signal for the search engines to make sure that your internet, stays present. What about existing customers? And this is the thing that I talk about a lot when I'm talking to clients about how to think about existing customers in the off season. I have many people who that I work with who kind of save their efforts to existing customers for the off season, and the reason is they're much easier to talk to in the off season than anybody else, right? They already gave you money once. They already bought from you. They like you, right? They're generally happy with what you did, and of course we got to make sure they're happy, right? What they still need, right? Many of these folks have talked to you about multiple things, but they've only contracted with you for 1 or 2 of them. you kind of know, and you can go back to them and kind of complete the list. So there's an opportunity to continue a conversation that you already have with them. The other thing about existing customers, you can give them something special because there's not a million of them, right? There's a manageable quantity of these people that in most cases, you know who they are. And you can make it something really special to cover their list for the spring, okay? So that's how I think about existing customers in the off season, as opposed to trying to go build a relationship with somebody new at a time when they're not really thinking about you, right? And what about us in the off season? If you're a home improvement company in the United States, in January and February, you're almost guaranteed to be less busy in January and February than you are in the rest part of the year. Now, there may be exceptions to that rule, and some of you folks in California might be busy all the way through, but for the most part, you're going to be less busy and you could use more work, right? Most of the folks that I'm talking about in those times when they would otherwise do very little are willing to take a little bit lower margin in exchange for keeping the crews busy, right? That you've got these folks that are either on the payroll or you want to keep them on the payroll. If they're subs and you want to keep them around, keep them working for you, you'd want to keep them busy during that season. You've got time to reach out, right? You're not as busy as you were in the rest of the year. So you've got time to reach out to people and talk to them. And most of the time, the folks that I talk to don't really plan on these months being big. And so if you have an ability to put something together with your existing customers that will, goose your sales and make make those months bigger than they would otherwise have been, it's a nice little bonus. It's a really good way to start the year, right? So that's kind of the way I think about that whole thing. And if we're talking to existing customers in the off season, there's an opportunity here. So there are some things that we want to talk about when we're doing this. And when I say talk to existing customers, I mean talk to them either on the phone or on a postcard or on a letter or somehow, right? It's not just one way. There's not one answer to this, but in general, having a communication with your existing customers in the off season is important. And here are the opportunities that you can use to have that conversation, right? You have an opportunity to thank people for what they did with you before, right? Thank you for the work that we've done in the past. You can tell them what you need, right? In other words, if you're a home improvement company and you want to keep your crews busy, tell the customers that, hey guys, it would be meaningful to me if I could keep my crews busy in the off season, and I'm willing to do something in exchange for that. I'm willing to make this more of a deal for you. I'm willing to give you something in January and February that I'm not otherwise able to do in the whole year, right? So it's something special. And the other thing that really makes the existing customer important in the off season or kind of helps you to make this work is that you can give them something special and you don't have to give it to everybody else, right? You can make it special for them and you want to make that special, right? You want to thank them for what they're doing, and that's a good time to do it. The thing to remember is in this time, if you really want to get results from folks, don't make them buy anything for it. Make them just see you, right? Get in the mode of, I just want to go out and see a lot of customers about things that they'd like to do either now or in the future without requirement for buying anything. So we're going to give you something in exchange for that. And if you get creative with that whole concept of, I would like to put a program together or a promotion together with my customers, and I just want to see a lot of them about something that I'm making special for them in exchange for them making January and February a special thing for me. Those are the kind of the formulas for success, right? So I've done this as contests. I've seen a lot of people do it as contests where giving customers a way to enter a contest by seeing a demo, that will get a lot of response, right, in those months. So, we're giving away a trip to Cancun, and all you have to do to register to win the trip is to see a demo of something that we know you want. Mrs. Jones, we know we did your first floor of windows. We know you've got 7 more upstairs. All you have to do is see a demo to get to find out how much that costs, and you don't have to buy anything, and we'll enter you into the trip. And that's a good way for you to, get that done. And you may be going to Turks and Caicos, just by seeing that demo. And we know, eventually you're going to want to do that anyway. So it makes it a kind of it lowers the barrier to them wanting to see you, right? Some examples that I've seen where people, winning a getaway trip for two is a very popular way to do this. It's a customer appreciation contest, right? We're looking to send you to someplace warm, kind of, showing the customer in that place, right? We're sending you to that place. We're reaching out to people with deals, right? This is the time to spend, some extra effort to get a deal in front of your existing customers, and they will respond to that, right? Special savings, customers only, trip to South Padre Island, wherever. These are inexpensive ways to do this, and customers respond to this very well. You'll also notice on the left there's a website page, right? We want to make sure that the things that we do on, in a postcard or a letter or a phone call, that we allow them to come to the website to a special page where they can sign up and register to win that trip. So that way you'll end up, getting people to come to you and kind of however they feel like coming to you. But what I've seen dozens and dozens of these things done. And when you go at that hard, when you do something special for your existing customers, go at it with enthusiasm, and let them know that they can get something that they wouldn't otherwise get because they're special customers. And then the reason you're doing that is because you need something from them. You will succeed. The other important things about these kinds of promotions and these kinds of activities is it's important to get everybody inside your business working along the same lines, right? So if you want something to work, the best way is to get everybody, incentivized, right? Think about incentives: bonus the reps, bonus the appointment setters, bonus everybody who's doing something, and get them all on the same, on the same page. And if that happens, if everybody's kind of chasing, the same goal, then we find these things work very, very well. The other thing that in addition to just bonuses, I've seen done in the past is contests. Teams inside businesses that are working to, see as many customers as possible and to get as many sales as possible. And if you create these kind of contests inside and during these 2 months, then you can really make that something special. So in summary, it's best to focus on two things in the off season. One of them is online presence, making sure that your internet is in the right place, because that's your cheapest lead all year round. And you want to make sure that you've consistently addressed that and not taken a break from it just because, it's the slow season. The other piece is the existing customer, the folks that you've already done business with. They're definitely the easier folks to talk to, and will do business with you in the off season in a much more kind of, quantifiable way. Be creative with it, put a special thing together for people, think it through, create contests, right? Give the customer something special that's for them only. You have to be an existing customer to get this, and make sure you live to that. Go at it hard, bonus the staff, and you will watch it work. So that having been said, I'd like to spend a little time talking about Surefire, if we could, and about how we think about the internet and how we think about doing things online. When we first started, there were about 500 of these internet tools that there's a magazine that puts out a marketing technology landscape. There are about 500 tools available to customers. Now there's about 5,000, and we're one of them. And that's changed. It's grown quite a bit, and it's made it much more difficult for customers, for contractors or for small businesses to do things. And so what we like to think about is we like to use the technology to make life easier. And so we have a cloud, a platform where we bring in all kinds of the things that you need: Google AdWords, directories, analytics, right? Lead management, reputation management, content. Put it all in one place and make it accessible to everybody so that you can get the most leverage and the most bang for your buck on the things that you're doing. So you're able to look in one place and see leads and reviews and directory listings, and you're able to manage your internet presence and your reputation and your social media, and do that all from one platform on one password. That's the goal. And in the end, what we're really trying to accomplish is on a search engine results page, like you see here, we're trying to be in all those places, right? We're trying to be on paid search, right, with a little bit of a budget. We're trying to manage that local SEO, which gets us on the maps, and we know that that's becoming a much bigger and more important area for Google than it used to be. And then organic search, we want to be as high in that as possible, because that's still a very active way that customers find people to do things for them. So the platform is all about, it's marketing automation. It's about seeing everything in one place and being able to act on it and being able to manage everything that you do. So I think at this point, Jenny's going to talk about setting up recommendations and setting up some time to talk to people.
Yes, I am. Thanks so much, Bob. And we did actually just open the poll. So if you'd like to see a little bit more about what Bob was just showing you, we'd love to show you a deeper dive into the Surefire Local Marketing Cloud on either Tuesday or Thursday of next week. So pick a time on the poll, and if neither of those days work, please email me and we will work with your schedule. Really great opportunity for you to see how partnering with a digital marketing company can make a huge improvement in your marketing efforts. And while you guys are answering the poll, I did want to announce our Google Home Hub winner, and today's lucky winner is going to be Melissa Ellis. Congratulations, Melissa. Please email marketing@surefirelocal.com with your full mailing address, and we will get that shipped right out to you. So we're going to close up the poll now. Hopefully you had a second to answer it. And I want to give a huge thanks to Bob and to all of you on the webinar for taking the time out of your day to join us. I really hope you learned something new, and I look forward to seeing you online at future webinars. Please take a minute to fill out the survey at the end and let us know how we did, and if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear about in the future. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.